When I saw that the UK is regulating retinol, I genuinely panicked. I use retinol almost every night, and I have done for years. And I thought, wait, are they taking away the one skincare ingredient that actually works? Because we're constantly told that retinol and SPF are basically the gold standard. So when governments step in, it feels like something's wrong. But once I actually looked into this law and why it exists, the story is not what I expected. And look, if that headline freaked you out as much as it did me, you're not stupid, you're not dramatic, and you're definitely not falling for marketing. Because retinol isn't some TikTok skincare phase. It's one of the most studied skincare ingredients we have. Full stop. Dermatologists have been recommending retinoids for decades. There are thousands of clinical studies on how vitamin A derivatives affect skin. This isn't snake oil. This isn't clean beauty. This is actual science. So if you've trusted retinol, you weren't being naive. You were doing exactly what we're told to. Follow the evidence, which is why regulation feels so unsettling. Because when something this proven gets regulated, people usually jump to one of three conclusions. Either it's secretly dangerous, we've all been lied to, or the beauty industry has messed up again. And honestly, given the history of this industry, none of those thoughts are irrational. So instead of panicking or panic buying, I did what I always do. I went digging into the science, into the safety data, and into what this law actually says, not the headlines. And what I found completely changed how I felt about it. So let's be really clear. Before we go any further, yes, retinol does work. Not because influencers say so, not because brands hype it, but because we've been studying vitamin A in skin for decades. At its most basic level, retinol does three really boring but really important things. First, it speeds up cell turnover, so your skin behaves a bit more like younger skin, shedding old cells and making new ones more efficiently. Second, it stimulates collagen production, and collagen is what gives skin structure, firmness, and resilience as we age. And thirdly, it helps thicken thin skin. As we get older, our skin literally becomes thinner. Retinoids counteract that. That's why retinol isn't an instant glow product. It's slow, it's boring, and it works quietly in the background. This is also why consistency matters more than strength. You don't get better results just by cranking up the percentage and nuking your face twice a week. In fact, and this is important, studies have shown that lower strength retinol can produce measurable changes in skin. Even concentrations around 0.3% have been shown to produce measurable improvements in skin texture, which tells us something crucial. More isn't automatically better. And that idea that higher strength equals better skin is where a lot of people get tripped up, because retinol works through long-term signaling in the skin, not brute force. And that distinction is going to matter a lot when we talk about the regulation. So at this point, you might be thinking, if retinol works, why regulate it at all? And this is where the story changes, because this regulation isn't about wrinkles. It isn't about anti-aging, and it isn't about retinol suddenly becoming bad. It's about vitamin A as a whole. Retinol is a form of vitamin A, and vitamin A is a little bit different from a lot of other vitamins because it's fat soluble. That means your body doesn't just flush out the excess like it does with something like vitamin C. Fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K get stored in your body, mainly in your liver and fat tissue. So the risk that regulators are looking at isn't one cream or one night or one routine. It's a slow build-up of exposure over time. And here's the part that most people never get told. Vitamin A doesn't just come from skincare. It comes from your diet, supplements, food, and yes, cosmetic products. On their own, none of these are a problem. But for a small group of people, not everyone, those sources can stack. Think if somebody's taking a daily multivitamin, eating a lot of rich vitamin A food, and using multiple retinol products, individually, that's all fine. But collectively, that's where regulators start paying attention. So this isn't retinol is dangerous. It's at a population level, let's reduce the margin for error. That's why the focus is on cosmetic concentrations. products people buy freely without guidance. And it's also why prescription retinoids are completely unaffected by all this. Those are monitored, dosed, and supervised. So this isn't a crackdown, this isn't a ban, it's a cap. A ceiling that's designed to protect edge cases without taking away a proven ingredients from everybody else. And once you understand that, the regulation stops feeling scary and starts feeling boringly logical. Okay, so let's talk about what this law actually does. Not the headlines, not the panic, just the facts. First, over-the-counter cosmetic retinol is being capped. That cap is 0.3% for face and hand products, and 0.05% for body lotion. That's it. Retinol is not being banned, it's not being removed, and it's not suddenly illegal. Second, nothing is disappearing overnight. Products that already exist aren't being yanked off the shelves tomorrow. There's a long transition period for brands to reformulate and relabel. So if you're currently using a retinol product that you like, you don't need to panic buy backups. Thirdly, and this is really important, prescription retinoids are completely unaffected. Tretinoin, adaptopyline, prescription strength retinoids prescribed by a doctor are still all available and all unchanged because those are medically supervised. They're dosed properly and prescribed with risks in mind. And the same goes for in-clinic dermatology treatments. Professional treatments are unaffected. So if you've been hearing retinol is being banned, that's just not true. This law only applies to cosmetic, over-the-counter products that anyone can buy without guidance. If you're using retinol responsibly, if you're not layering 5 vitamin A products, if you're wearing sunscreen, if you're not mega dosing supplements, this law does not suddenly make your routine wrong. It doesn't mean you've been harming your skin, and it doesn't mean retinol has stopped being one of the most effective tools that we have. What it does mean is that regulators are setting a sensible ceiling. Now, here's the part that genuinely surprised me. This isn't actually law in the UK yet. The regulation everybody's talking about is an EU law. And because the UK isn't in the EU anymore, we're not automatically bound by it. So technically, right now, there is no UK law banning or capping retinol. But, and this is the important part, in reality, is already changing what we can buy. Because most skincare brands don't make completely different formulations for the UK and the EU. They make one version that works across multiple markets. And since the EU has already locked in strict retinol caps, brands are reformulating globally. So even though the UK hasn't passed its own law yet, we're still feeling the effects, which is why this feels like a UK crackdown, even though legally it isn't. And once you zoom out globally, the inconsistency becomes even clearer. In the EU, strict cosmetic regulation. In the UK, we're likely to align, but not formally there yet. And in the US, there is no cap on retinol at all. You can legally buy 1% retinol, 2.5% retinol, no prescription. And across much of Asia, things are largely unchanged, which means the same brand can legally sell you a 1% retinol serum in the US and a 0.3% version of the exact same product in Europe. So let's be honest, this clearly isn't about retinol suddenly becoming toxic. It's about policy choice. Different regions choose different levels of precaution. The EU, and likely the UK, prioritise minimising population level risk. The US prioritises consumer choice and post-market reporting. But none of that changes the science. Retinol did not stop working at the border. Now, here's where things get interesting. Because if this regulation was truly catastrophic for the beauty industry, you'd expect outrage, lobbying, lawsuits, public backlash. And that's not what we're seeing. Yes, reformulation costs money. Changing formulas, updating labels, and clearing old stock, that's expensive. But it also does something else. It creates new launches. And in beauty, new launches mean new marketing, new buzz, and new reasons to buy. Suddenly, it's not, we lowered the percentage because we had to. It's get the next gen retinol, smarter retinol, gentler, but just as effective. Same ingredient, new story. A lot of brands will also do something very practical. They'll harmonise formulas globally. One retinol percentage, one supply chain, one product story. And for brands that don't, they'll quietly keep selling higher strength versions in markets where it's still allowed. Same brand, different shelves. And none of this requires anyone to be evil. It's just incentives. Because regulation doesn't only restrict behavior, it reshapes it. And in beauty especially, regulation often becomes a marketing opportunity, a chance to repackage compliance as innovation, a reason to relaunch products people already own, a way to frame less as better, which is why the industry isn't panicking. They're adapting. And if you've watched this space long enough, you've seen this pattern before. So why did this spread so fast? Why did one headline trigger so much panic in me almost instantly? Because this isn't really about skincare. It taps into the anti-aging fear, that background noise we're all familiar with, that if we stop doing the right things, time will catch up with us. It taps into scarcity, that feeling of get it now, stock up before it disappears. And it taps into something beauty culture has trained us into for years: urgency. Fix it now, don't fall behind, don't miss the window. Because when you're constantly told that your face is a problem to manage, anything that threatens a solution feels personal. So people hear retinol is being regulated. It doesn't land as a boring policy update. It lands as something that helped me might be taken away. And that's a really human reaction, especially in a system that constantly tells women their choices are fragile. But once you step back and look at what's actually happening, that fear starts to soften. So after all of that, what should you actually do? And this is where I want to be clear and very calm. If you tolerate retinol well, you can keep using it. I'll give you my own example. I've been using the 1% Paula's Choice retinol for years. My skin tolerates it, I use it sensibly, and I wear sunscreen. So I'm not suddenly throwing it in the bin. I'll keep using it for as long as it's available. And when it is no longer sold here, I'll probably just switch to the 0.3% retinol. Because the evidence shows that lower strength retinol still produces real, measurable changes in the skin. And because consistency matters more than just chasing the highest number on the bottle. That's the bit that people often miss. Retinol works through long-term signaling in the skin, not brute force. So what actually matters most is consistency, sunscreen, and keeping your skin barrier healthy. If you're someone who genuinely needs something stronger, say for acne, pigmentation, or a medical concern, prescription options still exist. Those haven't gone anywhere, and they are still the gold standard when used appropriately under guidance. What you don't need to do is panic. You don't need to stockpile high percentage serums just in case. And you don't need to chase strength out of fear. Because good skincare isn't dramatic, it isn't urgent, and it definitely isn't driven by headlines. Good skincare is boring, consistent, and unpanicked. So here's the reframe. Retinol isn't being taken away from you. The science has not changed. What's changing is how much the industry is allowed to push and how much margin for error regulators are willing to accept. That's it. This isn't a scandal, it's not a betrayal, and it's definitely not proof that retinol never worked. If anything, the reason this conversation exists at all is because retinol does work. Because it's effective enough that it's been used widely for decades. And when something is truly effective, it doesn't need panic marketing. It doesn't need urgency. And it definitely doesn't need you to feel afraid. Calm, consistent skincare will always outperform fear-driven routines. I'm curious, did this regulation worry you when you first heard about it? And if you find it helpful, let me know if you want a follow-up where I rank retinoids by actual evidence versus hype. Because boring science tends to be where the power is.